everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloye here in Abuja. Tonight, we just get straight to it. Following the inhumane treatment meted out on the Nigerian Super Eagles in Libya, the House of Representatives is urging the federal government to invite the Libyan ambassador to Nigeria for an explanation. There was an urgent matter that was raised on the floor today by Honorable Kabiru Hamadu, Chairman House Committee on Sport. The House is further asking the NFF to take a formal complaint to CAF and FIFA. Well, that recent ordeal of the Nigerian Super Eagles, some of what has been on the social media that you are not also alien to. You probably have seen it on your Twitter, Instagram, or whichever of the social media. In fact, on television, you probably have seen it. They traveled for a second leg of our qualifying game into the African Cup of Nations in Libya. They came to Nigeria, and Nigeria beat them 1-0. Well, the team faced significant challenges, including inadequate security and logistical concerns, which raised alarm among players and officials alike. In fact, in Nigeria, a lot of Nigerians are very irritated by what happened. But the Nigerians at present, this is how he captured it. He said that this unfortunate incident is a stark reminder of the disregard for human dignity and the lack of respect for international norms. He declared that a reported mistreatment of the players is not only unacceptable, but also a breach of the principles of fair play and sportsmanship that underpins international football competitions. Some have described it as hostage. Some have described it as inhumanity to, well, the fact that this is happening on African soil. Well, the Libyan authorities are also talking. They say that they got a similar treatment from the Nigerian authorities, that in fact, those are just logistical issues. And they are talking to NFF. They in fact are saying they are going to go ahead to play the match. Well, which we'll find out. I'm being joined tonight by Senator John Owaneno, who is the Minister of Sport Development. He's live with us here in our studio. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sharon, for inviting me. Good evening.
What another sad taste, and leaves a very, very, very sad sad taste in the mouth, because you never imagine that this could be done to a fellow African nation. And worst case scenario, we had a very good relationship with Libya over the years. But can we get a summarized global picture of what really went down? Because the Libyan authorities said they are meting out what they also got from Nigerian experience.
Okay, Sharon, thank you. I mean, yes, you've captured it with the right words. I mean, and Nigerians, and I mean, what I can say is that, especially what played out in Libya, almost played out real time, because of the manner and the degree of engagement between, the Ministry of Sports Development and the NFF and the team back in Libya, and how much of this information we're able to give out, because we just wanted to be able to, get Nigerians, in line, in tune with what was going on. Now, but to say that, okay, first I take it with, the allegation by the Libyan team, about the fact that they were meting out to the Nigerian team what they received when they came. I think that for me, this was just either a serious and a dangerous afterthought, because before the incident that took place in Libya took place, there's about no Nigerian who was aware or attention was called to the fact that there was any kind of game that was played or that was meted out against the Libyan team. I mean, so for me, and right up to yesterday, I still wanted to be sure that there was no bit of the information that I didn't get, about that team. All I know, for example, and I've had to make these explanations to different people, that look, yes, our matches are played in Uyo as an airport, and that there's none of these teams that is coming for any of these matches, that the NFF hasn't worked hard enough to engage with the aviation authorities and agencies to get Uyo's airport cleared for their landing. There's none. Nigeria is not that kind of a country that would like I mean, we like to play the game and beat you, in the field of play and not create unnecessary difficulties technical just so to give us an advantage. So for the Libyan team, first they left Libya ahead of schedule. They came earlier than, that had been planned between them and the NFF. And even when they found that they needed to do so, they preferred to relate more with their embassy in Nigeria than with the NFF. The NFF only got to know after the Ordeal airborne that they were airborne en route Nigeria. And got to know even further the fact that they had decided to land, in Port Harcourt instead of Uyo, which was their agreed, point of entry. I mean, and when they found so, the NFF did not even sit back to say, okay, you've created problems. The NFF engaged in frantic logistic arrangements to accommodate, what that situation now offered, and went ahead to engage with the aviation authorities to be able to make it possible for their plane to fly from Port Harcourt to Uyo after landing. I mean, they got in, they landed, and the NFF told them what they had made, and they said that the arrangement they had was to drop them in Rivers, in Port Harcourt, and that they were ready to go by road to Uyo.
So did we offer them to? Did you offer to fly them from Port Harcourt to Uyo?
No. The arrangement was that you've come with a plane. The plane has arrived.
So why didn't they land in Uyo?
On themselves, by themselves, they decided not to land in Uyo.
Why? Now, did we find out why?
One of the things I need to now, say, because it's not becoming obvious, that this team had, perfected, what game, we now got played when our team got to Libya. They tried to create problems at every step of the way when they came to Nigeria. And the NFF was involved in trying to solve those problems. Right? They preferred to land in Port Harcourt when the initial agreement was to land in Uyo. The NFF didn't let them on their own. The NFF was on ground when they landed in Port Harcourt and said, look, Uyo, you can still fly from Port Harcourt to Uyo. So why don't you get the aircraft to fly you to Uyo? And they declined, said they were going to go by road. Right? It was late. The NFF said that this is late. They insisted they were going to go by road through that late evening into the night. The NFF offered vehicles that were going to take them. They declined the use of the vehicles offered by the NFF and preferred to make their own arrangement. The NFF backed up that arrangement with security arrangements and protocols. They got to Uyo. They were lodged at the Le Méridien. Normally, by FIFA regulations or whatever, ahead of the match, they should be, the pitch will be available for them once. In this case, the pitch was available twice. Even after the match, and Nigerians watched the match and saw and the hanky-panky that went on in the course of the match. Nigeria got lucky that we pulled a goal, close to the end of that match, right? And then even after the match, when they said they were going to stay in the country and leave on Sunday, they made a request for the NFF to assist them access to the plane, pitch so they can do their training. This was granted. Everything they requested for was done by the NFF. So for them to now wake up, it was a serious, dangerous afterthought. And then our team flies into Libya with an arrangement they were going to land in Benghazi. And then at the point they were of descent, they get a counter instruction, you cannot land here. The flight gets diverted without, attention given to whether they had enough fuel to take them to an airport that was about 300 kilometers out of Benghazi. I'm sure Nigerians have also, heard the pilot of that aircraft, right? An Arab pilot recounting what he had to go through. And then not only that, the point at which the authorities had diverted the plane, nobody was available to receive them. And then you leave a team stranded for upwards of about 16, 17 hours without contact, with no water, no food, heavily guarded. They couldn't leave, nobody could leave.
Is it that they stopped us from leaving, or we didn't have the transport to leave?
No, they stopped from leaving. They stopped the Nigerian team from leaving.
So they camped us into the airport.
That is why people have characterized it almost an hostage situation.
Has there been any explanation from the Libyan government? I know that there are those who will say, is it the Tripoli or the Benghazi government? Which one? I don't know which one we are relating with.
Unfortunately, we're only getting to now know. Most people are now getting to now know that about the different governments and which authority can you speak to, right? But, I mean, so far as I know, unless the engagement between the Nigerian Foreign Affairs Ministry and I expect it's going on. Unless those explanations have been offered, there's none of those explanations that I'm aware of.
Let me quickly ask, you look at it that the Nigerian authorities had control over, well, the welcoming of the away team. Now, the question is that they were supposed to land in Uyo. On whose authority did they land in Port Harcourt? Because if you're not allowed by the authorities to land at a certain airport, you cannot land. So if they say they were landing in Port Harcourt, when did we know that they were landing in Port Harcourt? Because FAN will have known ahead that they were landing in Port Harcourt. By that time, NFL would have made an arrangement. So at what point did we know that they were landing in Port Harcourt?
They were already airborne. According to the sources, according to the NFL sources, they were about 20 minutes or so, they're taken off before that information became available. I've told at the beginning of this program that they prefer to relate with the Libyan, authorities in Abuja, in Nigeria, to sort out all of that. And all of that was put into their flight plan and all of those things. But that's an issue that the aviation authorities, for example, would need to be able to now answer or explain.
Yeah. Minister, I covered sport for a couple of years. So I do know that FIFA has its own arrangement, especially when it comes to international games. And I know CAF also has its own arrangement, and there are checklists of what you need to do as a home team.
That's right.
Especially the FA, to be able to welcome to your grounds the away team. On our the checklist of CAF, what are the standards that must be followed, in welcoming an away team, and whether or not, as a benefit of Inter, whether or not we did our homework?
Well, what I can report to you is that if our homework wasn't done, the Libyan team would have, as quickly as then, made an issue of it. They would have escalated the way the Nigerian team escalated their ordeal while they were in Libya. But what I've reported to you is that at every step of the way, that checklist was satisfactory, right? If you recall, around those days when the Libyan team was in Nigeria, the reactions by the NFF authorities was always that we are familiar with those mind games that you are trying to play. You put yourself in that. We have tried to do this. So, that was.
But Minister, when they were here, the Libyans have alleged that there were problems in their welcoming. The coach and the captain of the team complained before the match in Uyo. In fact, there are pictures that are surfaced of their team members lying on the floor and at some airport. What report did you get from?
Okay, now let me tell you what it is. Again, it has to do with the kind of game that this team played. The Port Harcourt airport where they arrived is one of our, the best airports, right? And therefore, that Port Harcourt airport, there is no situation or circumstance that would lead to a team, right? Having the footballers lying on the floor and all of that. All these things were created deliberately to create some make-believe. And like I also said, if that was an issue, it's not just that we should be seeing it in terms of the pictures that are now flying about. It should have been made an issue there and then. Now, one of the things that I know is that the communications and the exchanges between the Nigerian Secretary General of the NFF and the Libyan Secretary General of their own Libyan Football Federation are available in terms of all the messages, all the phone conversations, all the chats, and all of that.
Did we escalate all of those to CAF before they left Nigeria? At the time when all of this was happening, now we saw that they were playing some antics. Did we escalate it to CAF, or we just kept it?
It wasn't up to us to do any escalation, because if they were those the Libyan team were supposed to have been those who have made the escalation.
Because before they played the game, they were already complaining.
If there was an issue,
if you look at their presser,
yes,
they were complaining that they were not being treated well. They were not welcome.
They were making these complaints to lay a basis for what they were going to do in Libya. Those complaints were at what level?
So, but we didn't see that coming.
It wasn't imagined.
We never thought that we were going to be treated that way.
The only thing which are now here, is that after speaking with, for example, the chairman of ValueJet, he said, because he's familiar with North African teams and all of that, that what he did was to deploy 2 of his pilots that are Arab pilots, right? Because he imagined, something. Normally there would be some kind of approval, according to him. And to show you how deliberate this was, of the entire crew and team that landed in the airport that they were forced to land, the only people that were allowed out of the airport, right, were the crew members. Those crew members had those 2 Arabian pilots and about 2 Nigerian, hostesses and all of that. When they arrived in the hotel, the only people that were allowed accommodation in were the 2 Arab pilots. The 2 Nigerian hostesses were not allowed because, according to them, they were under instruction not to allow them. So all of these things, and Sean, let me also say this, without prejudice to whatever other additional details that anybody else has, there is nothing that you can compare in terms of treatment, in terms of handling that took place between what happened in Libya.
But Minister,
yes, please.
They did not sleep. The Libyan team did not sleep in the hotel that the NFF prepared for them, did they?
Why didn't they sleep?
No, that's I'm asking.
No, why didn't they sleep? I mean, there's no
we
issue.
were the host country.
There is no issue that has come about the fact that they preferred not to sleep in
the NFF prepared a particular hotel, but they slept in another hotel.
Le Meridian was what was prepared and all that.
So why didn't they sleep at the Meridian?
My attention wasn't called to that because I don't think it was an issue. If it was an issue, if that's what they did, they couldn't complain about it because they didn't do so because NFF didn't provide a good accommodation for them.
Is CAF complicit in all of this, considering the fact that when all of this were happening, our boys were at the airport and the NFF and the crew members for almost a day?
That's correct.
Is the CAF complicit? Because how could they have allowed our team to be subjected to that inhumane treatment for that long without taking action?
In the morning yesterday, when I had a conference call, with the CAF president and CAF secretary general, I tried to call their attention to, issues, that come out of what their concern has been. And I said that, look, at some point, we also had some little issue with the South African team. Again, not created by Nigeria because of their insistence to prefer to land in Port Harcourt, right? This may be a different subject, why would teams prefer to do that than fly straight to you, right? Different subject matter. But I called the attention of CAF yesterday morning to the fact that when that happened, and the NFF was even on ground trying to sort out whatever logistics, CAF Secretary General didn't allow the president one minute of continuous contact and pressure and all of that. And that how come, as at yesterday morning, it was about 12, 13 hours. I say, how come 13 hours after our team is so subjected, there is no indication that CAF is in direct communication with the Libyan Football Federation, right? He didn't say this to me, but my attention was called, earlier on to the fact that the CAF president, who had got wind of this and had come out of wherever he was, may not have known which authority to speak to, right? And it calls to question, therefore, if there are such 2 authorities in Libya, does Libya offer a good environment and condition and situation for international matches of this nature to be hosted in country? That is when we talk about CAFs, being complicit or whatever, right? So I think that all of this raises the entire issues about, because, and I've said this, that this is actually such a test case. Earlier on this afternoon, I mentioned somewhere that it's like African football is on trial. Because how this issue is managed.
From your own point of view, it looked like CAF is either they're incompetent in handling the situation or they were complicit. That's what it looked like to you. Well, your engagement with them.
Well, I won't think, the local Libyan environment may have itself offered its own challenges. Unlike the Nigerian environment in which a team will just make a little complaint and CAF Secretary General or President can easily call NFF President, and all of that, because we are not up to any hanky-panky games, with our guests and all of that. The Libyan situation, first, with people who themselves may have perfected a script to do what they did, and secondly, the challenge of, at some point yesterday morning, when we're still talking about with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I was talking with someone else, it was that the Nigerian mission or the Nigerian, foreign personnel that were in Tripoli needed, whether visa, whether whatever, to get to Benghazi. I don't know how true this is, but these are the local, environmental challenges.
It was a bit difficult also for the Nigerian mission in Libya to intervene.
Yes, I remember, for example, that at some point yesterday, the Minister of Foreign Affairs in a conference meeting again, which I was included, was speaking with a Nigerian embassy official back in Libya and was furious about the fact that they must make physical contact and do whatever they can to be at that airport and also be able to deal with the situation.
All right.
That's simply,
this is important for because a lot of people will be wondering why he's shown talking sports on Politics Today tonight. It's important because the interest of the Nigerian nation, our reputation, is on the line here. Whenever and wherever there's a dent and a mistreatment or maltreatment of any Nigerian, wherever it may be, it's very, very concerning and worrisome. It's really coming from another African country. Either they see themselves as Africa or are Africans or not. That's not our business. But the business here is that Nigeria or Nigerians cannot be trampled upon. We cannot take it. And I think that the Nigerian government needs to take it so that the American citizen, wherever they may be on the soil in the world, the American government take it seriously. And they go every length to ensure that their interest is protected. And so the question that I'd like to ask, Minister, what is the status in terms of the international engagement between Nigeria and Libya? Because I don't think the Nigerian government should take this line now.
First, I think that let's talk about what has happened and what we know exactly. The Nigerian government has demonstrated its similar concern and interest in this situation. The Nigerian government acted swiftly and ensured, and which is why yesterday, about this time, I was at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport awaiting the arrival of the Nigerian team. And I mean, to the glory of God, they arrived and they were received. So the Nigerian government was in itself excellent in this. Now, the other matters about whatever else is going on now. Elsewhere today, I'd also said that must be going on between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other relevant Nigerian authorities with the Libyan authorities and all of that. I mean, I'm aware that the Minister of Foreign Affairs had summoned the Libyan ambassador. So all of that, I mean, the Nigerian government so far hasn't treated this lightly and is not going to treat this lightly because it must get to the bottom of the matter.
Some of this disrespect must stop.
I agree with you.
Nigeria is a big nation. Some other countries will not do to countries on their continent, the biggest country on their continent, the way they deal with Nigeria. Nigeria is a big deal on the world stage. Nigeria is a big deal on the African continent. And some of this disrespect must stop. One of it is also the fact that the way we also portray ourselves and, I mean, make ourselves look on the world stage. Minister, what is the status of the game now?
Okay. Again, Sheun, it's some moment ago, because that game is supposed to have been going on now. Maybe it would have been over if everything was fine. I mean, earlier on this afternoon, we got an indication that CAF had delisted that match, and I believe that CAF is going to take a decision about that. I mean, the status of that match is that it's been delisted, and I mean, you can't now be very exactly sure. The immediate thing you may think is that CAF may now decide to reschedule that match, and then the details of that rescheduling, would that next match take place in Libya or in a neutral ground? All of that will now need to take place. And I need you to also...
on behalf of Nigerians,
yes.
Libya cannot go unpunished for this.
Well, I mean,
because we need to hold CAF, and we need to hold their feet to the fire, because we cannot be trampled upon.
Sharon, it's not just...
And Minister, have you had contact with some Arabian countries? And no disrespect to any Arabian country here. There are a lot of people who have made complaints, and this kind of treatment, and when it comes to national conversation like this, that when you get this kind of treatment from like countries, it calls to question that how can our people be treated in this manner? If out of the crew members, only the Arabians on board were allowed into the hotel, it tells you something.
Yeah, so these are the details
that segregation.
Yeah, these are the details that the Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs will need to deal with, because this has to do with relations between
diplomacy
between the countries. But you talk about consequences. All our statements so far have pointed to that fact. My position when I engaged with CAF was that there must be adverse consequences visited on the Libyan Football Federation because of this, and that this cannot be achieved by anybody trying to insist that Nigeria should take whatever has happened and still make itself available for the game that was supposed to have taken place today. I haven't said so. I need to also, I mean, you mentioned something about the fact that this is a country. It's not like it's a big country. My approach, the approach of this government, especially on this matter, and for me in a lot of other matters that I've had to deal with, is actually fueled by that fact. I've always considered the fact that Nigeria is a big country. You can't just do anything to Nigeria and just get away with it. Yesterday I had calls, I may not mention. When I spoke with Amaju Picnic, our CAB executive member, I said, look, Nigeria is not the kind of country that this should happen. And that this is completely objectionable and not acceptable. And therefore, you mentioned, and my attention has been called to the fact that at previous other times, this has happened, especially at the level of club sides and all of that. If that's what has been the case,
ask Enyimba.
This reaction, this reaction that the ministry, the government has made, and we ensured that our team came back on our own terms, I believe is going to be like a guide for other situations that may arise. The only thing, however, is that those other situations, you may not be able to predict what they can be like, right? There are some situations in which a team, and this is not saying it is correct, deliberately create some blocks here and there.
We now know better.
We now know better about them, but we also have to now be guided at every step of the way by what the status are. Elsewhere today I've said that maybe this has opened up, I don't know what the position of the status of CAF would be, but I think that, I imagine that those status could never have imagined that we can get to a point in which a country's national team can be held hostage for upwards of 16, 17 hours.
Minister, with the benefit of hindsight, is abandoning the game the best decision at the time? Oh, I mean, looking at it now, do you think we should have abandoned the game?
Sheun, let me see how I'm going to answer that question. Sheun, how would it have seemed that a team, our team, any team whatsoever, arrives in a particular country for a game, it gets holed up and locked up in an airport,
criminally held hostage,
and all of that for about 16, 17 hours, no contact is made, and then that team accepts all of those very hard conditions for the sake of football, for the sake of going to go and play a game. You are unsure of what the next move would be. So at that point in time, between the game and the security of the lives, safety of the lives and of that team, of those Nigerians, will be the uppermost thing in the mind.
All right, Minister, maybe we also need to reassess, and I think that you need to also, as a ministry and the NFF, and in fact, any of the games as that, need to reassess our manner in which we host visiting teams, because maybe we also need to learn one or two things in being more hospitable and more welcoming. This is perhaps a lesson for every one of us to how to welcome people to our home. But again, Minister, are you worried also those who have complained about night landing at Uyo Airport?
Night landing?
Yes.
At Uyo. I mean, it's okay.
Have you heard that complaint?
To the best of my knowledge,
yeah.
Unless it's different now, to the best of my knowledge, I think that I haven't heard such a complaint, but the Nigerian NFF will not encourage a team to land in Uyo if it is aware that that plane can't land.
But this is not the first time an away team is landing out of Uyo.
It's not
so does it call your attention that something may be wrong?
It's not about complaining. It's about the fact that when a team is departing its country, right, that the airport it is arriving at is also able to inform the flight arrangements and path that it takes. I mean, if there's an airport that you cannot land in the night, you cannot fly to land in the night in that airport. You cannot. So I don't think...
You don't think that there are some works being done at that airport, Minister?
Sheun, I think that let us not be apologetic in this matter.
No, we are just reassessing the whole thing holistically.
Let's not be.
First and foremost, yes, we're angry with Libya, but again, let us look inward and see where we need to fix things.
First, in every situation such as has happened, there are lessons to learn. There are things to learn, no doubt. But when you talk about hospitability, in the course of this program, I've mentioned to you that Nigeria and the NFF have not had any reason. Any of these hardships or comforts that happens, it happens more because a home team wants to create that in order to be able to have some kind of psychological advantage. The Nigerian NFF and Nigerian people have never worked for this kind of thing. Any of these discomforts has arisen out of what you cannot control, not deliberately created. I need you to know this. Yeah.
Honorable Minister, are we settled on Esuna Guavoin? Is he going to be confirmed officially as the Super Eagles coach? Or we're still going to take him as acting team manager?
Again, I'm not the one that's going to speak about this on this.
But you are
I'm not the one. Yes, I'm not the one who is going to.
You are in on it, isn't it?
I'm not the one who's going to make that appointment. I mean, the NFF started with appointing Finidi George. That means that the NFF at that point had an orientation towards home, and then it went off after that deal went awry, and tried to see whether they could engage a foreign coach. Again, it went the way it did, and it got forced out of circumstances to engage Austin Govon. Right, and they've done 2 matches. Today would have been the 3rd match, and all of that. I like us to be, to be open enough, on this matter, and allow the course of things to run, and hopefully, that decision will be taken by the NFF.
Right. But the last time you were here, we were talking about the Olympics.
Yes, please.
It's a long time from then. Any decisive action since then?
On the Olympics?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a few things we've done. I mean, we've tried to engage, on a post-audit of the Olympics, listen to a no-holds-barred session with the 12, competing sports that we took to the Olympics and the 4 Paralympics and all of that. And I was glad at how open that session was. Thereafter, we have a committee that is sitting on, trying to look at, the various, negative exposures that we had. And each of these things you are doing to be able to avoid it happening the next day. I mean, the next thing now is that we're going to be able to now come up with, some kind of a plan, a program that tries to...
There are some people who had and messed up our nation. And that's how they go unpunished.
I just talked to you about a 7-member committee that is sitting and interrogating that and engaging that. They're going to come out with their report.
So we just want to be sure that the process will be thorough.
Yes,
and anybody who erred should not go unpunished.
What we should be sure,
it will be a detriment
to Nigerians should be delighted about is the fact that we haven't swept any of this under the carpet, and they're looking at it, them holistically. There's none of those issues that gave us a negative exposure that we have tried to bury. They're all part of the terms of reference of the committee, and the committee has eminent, people who have names. Yeah. Okay, I haven't called any of them. They invited me in their first sitting and took me on as well, and I was glad at the way they took me on. And I expect that's how they're going to approach every other person they're going to take and all that. And yeah, so that's what it is. So they're an independent committee. They're working on it. And for that reason, we made sure nobody from the ministry is part of that.
Honorable Minister for Sport Development, Senator John Awanena, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight and explaining to Nigerians. Because, maybe you don't know, this your ministry is probably the most important ministry in Nigeria. You know why?
Why, Phil?
This is the only matter that unites Nigeria the most.
Yes,
This is the only system where there is no Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, or Efik, or Yoruba. Everyone is Nigerian, and we speak one language.
So can I say something?
That's how important.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
What it means that sports matter.
It matters, and it's a united
and I need that both government and the people of this country, do all they can to make sure that we approach sports in terms of whatever needs to be put in place for sports.
And they want you to make a change. Are you going to do that?
I'm hopefully, going to make that change.
Because it's a promise you're making.
It's I know how else. For me, it's total commitment. For me, the work has to be done.
All right.
And that work that has to be done is that work that has to be done that's going to be positive and positively impact.
Right.
Yeah.
Honorable Minister, thank you so much indeed for coming today.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheon.
And I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
If this is a factor that brings us together, that unites us as a people, let's keep it and let's be passionate about it. If we can move forward in sport, we can move forward in every area.